Hello from the Hashknife. We actually come to you with heavier hearts this time because we just lost a dear loved one. My great uncle and my mother's great uncle passed away recently. As he was transitioning from this life to the next, we were able to talk to him about a lot of things that were important to him, and a lot of the things that involved stuff like this range, the stuff that we're doing online, the things we're sharing with people, and he was appreciative that he was able to watch from afar as he aged in life. He grew up the first about 20 years of his life involved in farming in eastern Montana. And I have notes here because he told us that he was the 13th of 15 kids. He spent 65 plus years as a mason in the trades. And he laid his first brick on May 10th of 1960. September of 65, he opened his first business, and that is a business that has been running ever since by him and his kids and grandkids thereafter. What he told us when we were able to visit was he appreciated this lifestyle and the ability to be part of this again from afar, and then whenever we could have him visit, he was glad that he could be here to join in on this. It was people like him, and it currently is people that are still living just like him that have not been able to get back to this lifestyle. That's why we do this. This video we're about to share has actually been in the queue for about 3 years. I didn't know when to use it, when to share it, what to do with it. And I hoped one day soon we'd be able to use it. And unfortunately, this seems like the most appropriate time to do it. It was filmed on Halloween of 2021. My parents brought my uncle here to help move some cows, and then they preg tested and they sorted through those cows that afternoon. And then after a meal, they sat down and they had about a 25-minute discussion. So the first 7 minutes of this episode show some of the events that transpired that day. And then the last 26 minutes or so are an in-depth discussion that my father and my mother had with my uncle. And I hoped to be able to do something like that again this next year, sometime during this year. And unfortunately, it never worked out. And I hope maybe this can provide something to you, and maybe asking those ancestors, those family members, what it was like during their time. And if you can, put it on film.
Good morning from the Hashknife. It's Halloween day 2021, so you'll know the date. This will never be something we can recycle, I don't think. Why would we want to? But hey, we got a special guest with us today. As you can see, my lovely bride in the background there, and her great uncle, Uncle Gerald Hill. He's come along with us today, give us some moral support, and we might even talk to him a little bit later about what we're doing and things they did different. So stay tuned. As you can see, just our very presence makes them come in, apparently. Hey, yeah, look at that. And then with us, we also have, yes, the bearded one, Braden. Brought him home to do this. Yeah, Lisa's got, I think, a big chunk of them right there, most of them. We haven't quite got 50 head in here, so that's kind of a plus. But I got some down here to water. Braden, he went on over to the southwest corner, and just to see if we got any stragglers there. But so far, I got a horse that just wants to go with another horse. He needs a divorce from his horse. Yeah, it's nice. Cool today. I think it's only about 35 degrees. No wind. And these cows know where they're going. They're headed home. So they're moving really nice and easy. And no problems. And bunching up. Typical Lisa style. She's like Snow White or Cinderella combined. Everybody loves Lisa, so they're just hanging right next to that little scooter that, of course, it doesn't hurt that she has a little cow cake in there and they know it. Well, these kids are strung out here nicely. Now the big obstacle of the day is to see if Lisa can get that gate open down there and without cursing me. Odds are not even on this, so we'll have to see. I feel bad because I need a good tight gate, but I need her to be able to open it up, so we'll rebuild this corner down here this next spring, I think, and then I'll maybe put on a little cheater so she can just lift a handle and tighten it up that way. Be a whole lot easier. So here's the tail of the tape. We'll see what happens. Oh, she's looking at me. Oh, she got the gate open. We have a win. And she's trying to shoo him away a little bit. She's trying to run out there in front of him, try to stay ahead of them. And she might be successful because they, I think, are looking for something to eat. I got a horse throwing his head around because he thinks he needs to have that other pony around him. All right, we have success. She won't yell at me too loud. I like it. Easing right down the road. They don't go too far one side or the other when we got them in the county road here, so that's kind of nice. And you can tell they definitely want to go home. They are looking for better pasture, different pasture, and they know what that means. They also know I'm going to be feeding them here, and they're kind of lazy that way. Can you listen to my horse talking? He just talks and grumbles all the time. You goofy bugger. But they're going to like this feed. Get there, they don't have to hunt too far for grass. Of course, this year there's not a lot of grass to hunt, so they're going to be glad for the handout. She's pretty good at this. She grabs that bucket and shakes some cake about the time she hits the highway, nobody coming, and she gets them all to just chase her right across. She's getting to be pretty good at this, navigating these big obstacles like this and keeping everybody safe and from not getting hit.
And then tomorrow we'll bring the girls in to Preg test. They saw hay and went, oh, hay. Do you need help with somebody on ground, or? Okay.
I don't think so. I think we're good. He's just going to take small bunches at a time. So because of the way the drought was this year and the shortage of grass and some of the cows we got rid of, we left bulls on these cows, and normally do that, don't want to do that, but we're going to preg test these cows and be able to age the calves with the ultrasound. So the vet will do that. Otherwise, I'd have taken these bulls off these cows back in about July, or I mean August, mid-August. But because of the conditions we got, these I think these mostly bred up because these bulls were off. They've been hanging by themselves anyway. It's just kind of the idea of it. I don't want to have a bunch of late calves, but the way it is, if they were late, then that was just an indication that when we took the bulls out, they would have been not bred anyway, so we would have taken them to town. So something a little bit different. Don't like kind of doing it. Just doesn't feel right, but through modern technology, we're able to maybe sort that out a little bit better and age these. I think it's only going to be a couple dollars a head more to age these calves than it is to just do a regular preg test. So we'll be able to kind of use that as some predictability as well when we calve. So, in the meantime, Braden's got to sort some cows from bulls. Well, we're back inside the house. We've got everybody separated, and we actually put out a couple of bales for these cows, let them chew on something out there because there's nothing to eat in that pasture. And come in, and Lisa made some enchiladas and had some cookies and something warm to drink, and now we're all warmed up and want to take a nap. I know I do. I don't know about Uncle Gerald.
Yeah, I'm ready.
But, we get to talking and looking at this stuff and what we're doing and how things change. And I guess a question I have is, you grew up north of Glendive, that Bloomfield country.
In the Bloomfield, kind of northwest of Glendive.
Okay, and what year was that when you were born at that place, right?
I was born in Bloomfield, Montana, living in Bloomfield, and when I was a year and a half old, we moved over to the Lindsay farm.
Okay, so not very far away from where you first was born then.
No, it's only about 10 to 12 miles apart.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, when did you leave? When did you leave that? Because you guys basically you farmed. Did you have many cattle?
Now, total had about 30 head.
Okay, so you had some,
including the milk cows. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was really almost a self-sustaining, little small farm ranch operation then.
Yes, it was.
And it was for how many kids, parents, and how many kids were involved in that?
I'm number 13 out of 15 kids.
Hey, Lisa, we got some catching up to do.
No. And anyway, I was, like I say, I was a year and a half old when we moved to the Lindsay farm. And then shortly there was one or two siblings left. And so there were 6 kids and a parent. So eight of us living at that little farmhouse.
Wow.
And that wasn't very big.
No. I think upstairs, and it was 2-story, just had a little bit of it upstairs and a main floor. I think I figured one time it had about maybe 800 square feet altogether.
Wow, that's not a lot of room.
No.
No running water, no electricity, no insulation.
So that's why Grandma appreciated electricity so much.
All right.
We never had to worry about losing power because we didn't have any.
Yeah.
We never had to fight frozen pipes.
Yeah.
We didn't have any.
I guess there is a silver lining to that, isn't
Yeah. Yes.
So, what year did you leave there? Well, let me ask this first. How many acres did you guys have to run these cows and farm on?
800 acres.
Okay. So the majority of it was probably farming then.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
And what did you farm?
It's wheat,
Okay.
barley, some oats.
Okay. So just some of your regular commodity crops.
Right.
And so what did you do with your cattle operation? How did you guys run that then compared to what we do today? Unlike this place.
I don't know, it's kind of hard to say. We just, the pasture was close by, and it would manage to put up a little bit of hay for the winter, pitch that up in the haymow above the barn, and I don't know, it just kind of
ran itself in a way.
Yeah, it just kind of worked out. Yeah. Yep.
So, but it took a lot of people to do that too. I mean, that's part of the reason why there's so many kids, right?
Well, yeah, kind of.
That, I guess, slow winters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some things never change. Because we're able to do this essentially. We get help from the boys. We get an extra hand here or there on some of the times, like when we brand. That's kind of a family and friends type of deal.
Yes.
And when we do this, when we wean, when we bring cows home, when we preg test, it's really just a few of us. It's I think the least amount we've ever had is probably 3 people with the vet, and we're set up the way we can do that for preg testing. Yeah, and we can get that done fairly efficiently. The whole thing is not make the vet wait. Their time is important, and time is money, and so they've got other appointments. But having facilities, you guys probably didn't have a lot for facilities, I would imagine, just enough to hold the milk cows and bring things in.
It was all very basic.
Yeah.
It all worked out, but it was very basic. Out of those 30 head of critters that we had, the bull was never locked up. We were under the cows year round, so there was year round calves.
Yeah.
Some of the calves would come in the dead of winter.
Right.
And so that was quite quite an experience, you know. So
But at least you didn't have 100 of them
No.
at you know, coming in at all kinds of time of the year.
No.
You know, and like I mentioned earlier while we were sorting, this has been the first year that we've really left the bulls with the cows. We haven't done that because, you know, we like these definitive dates. Bulls in, bulls out, you know about when your calving season is going to be. But because of the drought this year, we left those bulls there for pasture. And so we're going to use modern technology now to, you know, we ultrasound. They don't even just palpate anymore unless they have to manually, but they use an ultrasound wand to tell whether you got a calf in there. And they can tell on the screen the diameter of the head or the width of the head about how many days old it is.
Okay.
So we're going to use that this year to age these calves and make sure that they're going to be within our window, what we want when we calve. And those that aren't, if they're too far out, then they would have been dry anyway,
Right.
with the bulls in there if we'd have pulled the bulls out when we wanted. So we're going to use that as a marker this year and maybe probably sell those cows off. Because just like that, we don't want to be calving later and later and get them out of sync, and we don't synchronize our calves or cows with a drug or anything to get them to cycle so that they're all calving at once anyway. But you sure don't want to stretch that out.
Right.
What are the things that you see now that we do that's a lot different than what you guys did outside of just letting them run together? Anything wildly different?
No, I don't think it's that much different. It's just more stuff to work with than what we had then.
Yeah.
I guess I'm really hard pressed to answer that.
How about the type of I guess the process when you had calves? What did you do with your calves? Did you take them to market? Did you sell them, or did you sell them locally, or how did that work?
No, of course they all grew up at a different rate,
Right.
and so the ones that were ready would load up. Maybe there'd be 3 or 4 at a time, or half a dozen, and just take them to town, sell them on the auction.
Okay.
Pick the check up, take it home,
So
put it in the savings account.
yeah, what savings account? The one for the power and water bill, right?
Yeah.
So when you did that, so you kind of had a little bit of income all year long, but
Yes.
tiny bits.
Yes.
Do you think that was an advantage for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because there was no money coming in any other way.
Okay.
And then, of course, in the fall when they would harvest the crop, then they just put that in a bin, and then we'd just take it into market as needed. You need some money, you load up a pickup load of wheat and take it in and sell it. And,
Hopefully you're doing it on the top of the price or what you thought it was.
Yeah, you just take what was there, and so.
Not a lot different than today then,
No.
really.
No.
Volume maybe.
Yeah. Well, my parents made that farm very successful, as far as I can see, because they bought it right. They never spent money for anything other than an absolute necessity. They wanted to pay the land off bad enough that they didn't do any improvements like painting the buildings and you know, that kind of stuff. And they were very successful paying it off just within the first few years of buying it.
Of course, that was just after the Depression, right? So that sting of how that.
Well, this was in the 1940s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're coming out of the Depression.
Yeah.
World War I hadn't really hit, or II hadn't really hit yet.
Right.
So they were still smarting and had changed probably their behavior to match what they didn't have. So they were hedging their bets against that.
Right.
Didn't want to lose everything.
Right.
Yeah. Huh. That's very interesting because I think in some ways it's very similar, but you know, you worry about not being able to pay the taxes on a place.
Yeah.
Or losing it or overextending this whole thing.
Yeah, the difference that I can see mostly, and I talked to my sis Donna quite a bit about that, is that back then you have a certain size of equipment that you use. Well, the farmers then were willing to put in more hours to get that work done instead of now they spend $100,000 for a tractor rather than using what they have and putting in a few more hours on it.
Right.
And so I can see that's a big problem because they complain about being in debt. Well, it wouldn't be in debt so far if they would be willing to put in some more time on the tractor. So my dad had when we first moved from Bloomfield to Lindsay, he farmed with horses the first year. One day there was a truck drove up with high enough sideboards that it didn't show this tractor that he had in his truck. And it was a little Ford tractor, and so anyway, he talked my dad into buying that tractor. It was a 1939 Ford 8N.
Was it brand new?
I mean, no.
Okay.
It was a 9N, sorry. Anyway,
Okay.
a 1939 9N Ford, yeah. Anyway, so the guy took, I don't know, a couple of teams for down payment. And from then on, my dad and brother Walter was still at home. And they farmed 400 acres with that little tractor.
That's amazing.
Because they run that tractor 24 hours a day.
Wow.
And then they had a hired man that they would each take a shift.
Yeah.
And that poor little tractor just went. And imagine farming or plowing up to a couple hundred acres with a 2-bottom plow.
Right. Right. Well, but you think about the perspective on that, because my grandpa said the same thing.
Yeah.
He said they had teams of horses that they did all of and it was mostly haying. They didn't do that much farming, so they weren't breaking up ground.
Right.
But they had a lot of hay ground.
Yeah.
And he said that when they had that 8N tractor, they had an 8N and 9Ns, and they bought those, and you could reach out and you could turn a key, and you could turn it, more importantly, off and just walk away. He said there was no harness to put away.
Yes.
There was no horses to take care of.
Yes.
And he said it saved so much time, and he said we never looked back.
Yeah.
To them, now there's some nostalgia to it, and I wish I was better at driving than I am. I'm a hack, I think. But that's all they ever knew, and this was just an improvement. They could do more in less time with less energy and less effort. So that's another, it just verifies with what they did, and lines right up with what my grandpa did. Now, what year was that they bought that tractor?
That would have been in 1941.
Okay, so tractor's about 2 years old, 3 years old maybe?
Well, actually, we moved there in February of 1941. And I think he farmed with horses in 1941. That was the first year.
Okay.
And then I guess it must have been about 42 is when he bought it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was plumb happy to have it.
Oh, I had one of the neighbors comment one time because they knew my dad quite well, and that guy said, "I cannot believe how many chores your dad did on that tractor." The mailbox was about less than a quarter mile away. Dad would jump on the tractor and away he'd go up to get the mail.
So it was for everything then. It stopped walking. And,
oh yes.
Yeah.
Did it for everything.
That's fun. Now, how about horses? Did you guys use a lot of horses?
Well, I never had any experience with horses.
No riding horses, or
yeah, we had a couple of riding horses that we had.
Because once you got the tractor, the draft horses probably went away. He took them in trade, and you never had any others besides that.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little story about horses at that time. When the tractors started coming into being, the horses were worth absolutely nothing.
Oh,
Right.
You couldn't sell them. You couldn't even give them away. And I saw my dad shoot horses and drag them out to the pig yard.
Wow.
And take a knife and cut them open, and those hogs went wild over that horse meat.
Wow.
And it did, yep.
So the horse was virtually worth
Nothing.
less than just hog food.
Wow. Yeah, it was worth that. No, yeah, because nobody wanted them.
Yeah.
They had no use for them, and they didn't want to have to feed them.
Yeah.
Because they needed the feed for their cows.
It was a matter of survival for it. So
You bet.
the horses were competing with hay or grass for the cows.
Exactly.
Wow. And you were not going to use them again.
No.
And couldn't get rid of them, couldn't give them away. You had no alternative.
That's right.
that's a perspective for you that you know, I don't ever remember any stories like that with our family.
Okay.
You know, I mean, we're fortunate that way. You know?
Yeah, because I remember my dad and my brother Walter, who was 10 years older than me, talking about this nice young colt that they had, about who was going to shoot him and how they were going to get up close enough. And anyway, they figured out something, but they shot him, hooked onto him with the tractor that replaced the horses.
Right. Well, there's insult to injury. Oh, man. Yeah.
And drug him out. And those hogs, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
it was just like a bunch of hungry lions on a critter, on a body carcass.
That's amazing because we don't feed hogs like that. I don't know of anybody that does, but those old stories that if a hog ever tastes blood, and that, yeah.
Yes, I think about that so much as I got older, about how much time me and my siblings spent in the hog yard. You know, either playing with the pigs or trying to ride one or something, which is pretty hard to do.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
And then you hear stories about that, like you say. If they once taste blood, and then I read another story where a hog can consume a body in 8 minutes.
Wow.
A pen full of hogs, or
No, just one hog.
One hog.
One hog can eat a body in 8 minutes. So you can imagine with us out there playing.
Well, a little kid wouldn't stand a chance.
No
anyway.
way.
Yeah.
Oh no. I've read stories about where the kid had disappeared and they had no idea where they went. Well, the hog had ate them.
Right.
Wow.
Now that would be scary.
I've heard stories along the same and sayings along that.
Yep.
Where'd they go? Oh,
Yep.
went to do something. The hog ate them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yep.
Well, we have just enjoyed having you out today. I know it's been cold and it hasn't been miserable, but it's been cool. But it's good to see this different perspective and have you out and learn a little bit of something about our heritage and Lisa's family, and it's certainly important to us to do that. So in the spring, we want to have you back out again. We were going to do this last spring and show you some of the ground and some of what we do and how we do it.
Okay, that'll be good time. Then we can continue this.
There you go.
I've got a lot more stuff I could tell you. What's really neat and fun to do and easy in a story like this is if someone will ask you questions.
Right.
To just sit and talk about it is kind of hard.
Yeah.
But anybody that's interested to ask questions and then you answer and then there's your story.
And then we can't shut you up. And with that, we're going to let you go.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, this day has been a real treat for me.
Good.
Yeah, because I've never gotten out of the country in my mind, and so when I get a chance to do something like this, it's really appreciated.
Oh yeah.
Well, we should probably have you come up when we brand
That would be perfect
too, because it's warmer and hopefully it's not too wet. But that way, we get enough people. At hell, it's just an event.
Well, yeah, if it's just an idea, just to even stand around and watch.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I like. Yep.
She gets pretty bossy though, so you know there's always that part of it. You got to be careful.
Yeah. Reminded me of branding days back when we were on the hill farm. There was 3 of us neighbors that got together and would brand, and nobody even had that many critters, so we could do it in a kind of a short day. Mm-hmm. But the way they did it was just like at our place, that my dad would have the ones that need to be branded in the barn, and somebody would go in there and throw a rope around their neck and drag them out, and there'd be guys out there, for the branding and the castrating, and I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen anybody vaccinate.
I think vaccinations, I don't know when they really started on a grand scale, but I think it probably took a couple of disease outbreaks somewhere here and there when they finally went, you know what, we got to stop this. And that's a very good thing to bring up. I don't know. We'll have to do a little research.
On that.
Yeah, because that would be good to know. My suspicion is somewhere in the 50s or 60s.
That would be mine.
Would be in probably early 50s.
Well, because pharmaceuticals are starting to develop a whole lot more broadly, too.
Yep, that's right. And there's, a black leg used to be a thing. Mm-hmm. And you maybe hear of it, an outbreak here or there in places, but, when I was a kid, you'd hear about somebody getting black leg, but very, very rare. Now, I hardly ever hear of it. I'm sure it's there. somewhere. But we have such good pharmaceuticals and good vaccines now, and I think people are much. It's cost effective to do it.
Yeah.
It costs us somewhere in the neighborhood of $600-700 to vaccinate in a spring. Well, and if you lose one animal, or not lose an animal, you've paid for your vaccine. So it's a cost of doing business. It's not cheap, but something really necessity driven anyway. Yeah, that's interesting. Now, no vaccines. What about deworming? Did they do any of that?
No, not that I remember.
Yeah.
I don't think it was anything other than just drag the critter out there and throw a brand on them and castrate them, of course, and cut the horn.
Yeah.
Just some of them had horns about so long, and they had these big.
Yeah, big shears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cut that off, and boy, that old blood would just.
I bet.
Yeah, and then put I don't know what they use for disinfectant on those things.
There was some stuff when I was a kid, early mid '60s. There was a product that stunk to high heaven, and it was dark, and it was called KRS.
Okay, this must have been kind of like that because it did the job.
Yeah, and some blood stop. There was a something like a powder that was called blood stop. But I assume these were Hereford cattle, mostly. Yes. Yeah, that's most what everybody ran then.
But there's one incident I need to tell you before we cut this off. Is that when I was about 9 or 10 years old. Yeah. My dad had this one heifer that he going to save her for a milk cow. Well, she wasn't very big, and anyway, she got bred pretty early, and so he was really watching her, when she was going to calf. Well, it was getting close, but we went ahead and went to church that morning, and then went to the neighbors for dinner, and we got home after dark. Well, so we got the milk cows in. Like if we got home late, of course, everybody had to do their chores, and this heifer was missing. So anyway, we drive what we called the back pasture out at her out, and sure enough, there she was, the bottom of this hill. She tried to have that calf, and the calf was dead, and she just couldn't have it. We couldn't pull it. So anyway, we were in the pickup, so we went back to the house, got the Ford tractor, and went back and tied onto both ends of this heifer to get that calf.
To pull it.
Yeah, because it just absolutely would not. And so it ruined the cow. And so anyway, didn't want to leave her there suffering. So we went back to the house and got this single shot 22. And guess whose job it was to shoot that heifer?
You got to do that.
I did it.
Oh, God, yeah.
I did it. And then the next day I took the tractor out, which I did several times. Whenever a critter would die, would go hook onto them and pull them to this one certain spot where it was a nasty area. The coyotes loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's got a bone pile.
But that was the bone pile.
Yeah.
But some of those critters, oh my goodness, what a memory. See those critters puff up and
yeah, especially in the summertime or when you get warm weather.
Yeah.
Now, how old were you when you had to put that heifer down?
About 9, 10 years old.
Yeah. So just and I think that people don't realize or understand that it's not just having a kid do some dirty job. That's a learning experience and whether you look at it like it's a skill or not, it is to do it humanely. And I'm sure you had some pretty good instruction about what you needed to do, and you do it, but you've never forgot that. And you could do that today. I'm quite confident you would be able to do that.
I think so.
But those are some of the realities, that you have. Wow.
Yeah. So
again, that dang tractor comes in handy for poison. For a thought.
Yeah, we used to drive it to school.
Oh, fun.
had a scoop on the back, where you could scoop up dirt and then reach back and pull the handle and
Oh yeah, yep.
Well, there was 3 of us rode in the back, and then Sister Rena got to drive it.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. So we'd drive it back and forth.
Knowing Rena, oh, God.
Yeah. And then there was times going to school, which it wasn't very far away. The school was less than a quarter mile. We could see the school from the farmyard. And Dad still had his team and a stone boat,
Oh, yeah.
He had it rigged up where he could pull that stone boat with a team of horses. And I think he did it just for fun. But anyway, he'd harness him up and then would jump on that thing and hang on, and he'd take off. And he was standing up on the front, and he was a whipping and going, and the junk and the hooves and stuff would fly back at us along with the snow.
That had to be for fun because you wouldn't do that on purpose for.
But he did. He was a good teamster, so to speak, and knew what he was doing. And I think he actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then school was out, and then he'd come up there with the team and he'd bring us back again. So anyway, those are the good memories.
Yeah.
We'll carry this on.
That sounds good.
Absolutely.
We need to do that. I'd love to get on here with Kalen on a Zoom.
Oh yeah.
And then that way he could because he'll have
We
all
need
kinds
to
of questions for you.
arrange.
Yeah, we
do that a
could do an
couple
arrange.
times.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that'd be a good thing to do.
Because he'll have a million questions too.
Well, I can answer questions, but it's kind of hard. Like I said, it's kind of hard to just sit and just
And
talk
just think about
Right.
about. But to ask questions, now that's what it is. That's what's
Well, that spurs memories that you wouldn't come up with on your own, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That's good.
well, thank you guys.
Oh,
This has
God,
been
yeah.
fun and good and very, very helpful, and just made my day.
Well, good. We're glad to hear it. We're going to do it more.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, that's a promise.